I wanted to recognize Zraima and Jill for their 4 years of service with BCIC. You have seen BCIC go through a lot of changes in the past 4 years, from new leadership to opening up eBridge to a lot of different accolades that we've received, as well as initiatives and programs that we've undertaken. So I really appreciate everything you have done and help us lead forward. So thank you for your time and your dedication. You know, both are going to be missed a lot. You both brought a lot of contributions to what we are doing now, right now. So thank you very much. So thank you. Hug. And if I could get you to do a picture real quick.
Actually, yes. Just a tiny step to the side. Thank you. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. One last one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Board, if you wish to say anything, this is your time to say anything for Jill or so I'm sorry.
I'd like to congratulate both of you for your, oh,
Both Zraima and Jack for their contributions, for their service. I personally learned a lot from you guys, how to be collective and calm and manage this crazy team, which I admit I'm guilty of it, so I appreciate that, and I always admire you in the past, and will continue to watch your contribution to the community for sure in the future. So thank you for your service, and I wish you the best.
I echo Murad's comments. Zraima, you always bring such an incredibly thoughtful point of view. You see things that somehow manage to fly past the rest of us.
Recording in progress.
And you grab them and put them in front of us. And the way that you think is just so amazing. It's just really been a privilege to work with you. I will so miss having the Zraima point of view brought to our discussions.
Yeah.
I really am going to miss that a great deal. And Jill, I'm so grateful for you serving as chair for 2 years. I know that it can be extremely difficult maintaining order in meetings, and you do it with grace and professionalism, and you've brought collegiality to the board, and so grateful for what you've done. Also, we'll miss you a lot.
Thank you, thank you.
I echo that. So thank you all for taking part of this and everything you've done. So appreciate y'all's time.
No, you guys, we all came together, and I'm gonna miss having you all. I think the discussions that we've had as a group have been really beneficial, and I think we all feed off each other's questions and comments. So, having your experience go out the door is going to be hard. Mm-hmm. So, but I know that you guys will still be in the community, and we're here to listen to whatever you guys have. If there's anything else that you guys have an issue with or you want to talk about, just let us know.
Yeah, I just want to add, I mean, the short amount of time that I've been on this board, I've been impressed with everybody, but seeing and learning from each and every one of you, but now seeing Jill and Zraima leave us, I feel it's going to be tough, but thank you so much for everything you've done and contributed to this. Thank you for your service. And of course, you're not leaving far, so if we have questions, we know where to get a hold of you, I'm sure.
Thank y'all, it was very nice. We're gonna move on now to, I guess we go to 7, right? We're skipping to 7. So discussion pursuant to section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code regarding personnel matters. The Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation may convene in closed session to discuss the duties, evaluation, possible salary adjustments, and employee performance-based compensation distribution of the president and CEO.
So
Motion to move into executive session.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Excuse me, we're going to move into executive session.
Okay.
He's coming back.
He's gonna, because we have to stop it, then he's gonna come right back on there.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm in the car now, so.
Okay.
Okay, do we have, do we
Motion,
have a
motion to enter open session.
option?
It's or stop and restart, I think it's.
Okay. We had a motion, you're gonna make your motion?
Motion to re-enter open session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're back in open session. We're going to agenda item number 8, which is possible action regarding personnel matters related to the president and CEO. Do I have any motions?
I make a motion that we award the president and CEO her performance-based compensation based on the formula that's been provided.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, motion carries. We're going to move on to back to number 5, which is our work session, which is the discussion on the 25-29 BCIC strategic plan. Turn it over to you, Corey.
Okay, I'm excited to go through this. And so we did wrap this up July, August with the consultants and then with some tweaks because the document was extremely long, and when it was discussed with Christine when she came in for a workshop in August, it was a little overwhelming for the board, so we asked for them to do an executive session and just put, our focus on one-year priorities. But for this is actually putting all of our initiatives, our action items, and our KPIs with funding allocations for the next 3+ years. So that way you guys get the long-term vision of where we're heading with BCIC. So the purpose of it is realign our initiatives for our entrepreneurship, our community development, and our quality of life enhancements. Why this is so important that we did this was because we're at a point right now for Brownsville with everything that's happening with the new industries, SpaceX, LNGs, as well as, what eBridge has done. It's time to really evaluate where we can help with the needle moving forward. So this plan will help with a roadmap, accountability tools with our KPIs, as well as the framework based on what was with the stakeholders' input. And all of these were built based on our SWOT analysis, as well as the feedback of, our 200+ stakeholders that we did. So out of the strategic plan we've divided up to 4 goals. The first goal is accelerating entrepreneurship and small business development. The reason we're doing that is because it fosters sustainable economic growth by empowering our entrepreneurs and small businesses with necessary resources to succeed. This aligns with our mission to enhance the quality of life through inclusive and equitable economic development by creating an ecosystem that nurtures and innovates and supports our business. Our second one that was identified is strengthening our tourism and our downtown development. It's important to position Brownsville as a leading of cultural, recreational, and space tourism. The goal leverages the city's unique assets such as hike and bike trails, our proximity to SpaceX, our bicultural community, as well as our historic downtown. The third goal is to expand quality of life through community development. to create a vibrant and sustainable community by investing in family-friendly and recreational amenities, healthcare access, and revitalizing downtown and our cultural assets to establish the city as a prime destination. The goal addresses residents' priorities identified during our community stakeholders. And the fourth one I asked for that to be examined by our consultants, was how we can advance our organization. So advanced organization developments are our fourth goal, and that's to strengthen our internal capacities, our operations, as well as improving the board governance. So going on goal 1 of accelerating our entrepreneurship and small business development, I have broken it down to 3 years with what initiatives we're looking at, and for each first year we have what is funding allocations. I actually have funding allocations for all the years, but this really is important because we're already in 2025 and what has been budgeted. So out of year 1 for our growing our entrepreneurship is, the first one is establishing a business and retention expansion program. We have allocated $10,000 out of our admin budget to begin the framework on that, so we can launch the pilot program by the beginning of our fiscal year 2026. Anytime I have Q1, that means in reference to our beginning fiscal year, so October through December. We're doing quarters every 3 months. So we do have KPIs. We're looking at how many businesses we want to participate in the pilot program, which is 50. We want to target a 75% business satisfaction with surveys, increase the survivability rate of our businesses. We want to increase 10% over a year. The next one is evaluating leading programs to increase loan program funding opportunities. So currently we have the revolving loan funds, and the consultants, including the BCIC team, feel like that's just, we're very limited now with the revolving loan funds, and so we want to evaluate other opportunities to look at how we can fund small businesses. And so there's a CDFI, there's being an SBI micro lender. So what we're going to be doing is evaluating those programs to see what's the best fit for BCIC, what funding we have to do to be part of that. And so that is something we will be doing this year, and then we will be taking it before the board in June of our evaluation of how we would like to proceed if any of those seem to be a fit for BCIC. So funding allocation is $250,000, and we already have that budgeted in grant match. Next one is develop target programs and resources to encourage entrepreneurship in high wage sectors. Our KPIs is how many number of businesses are launched in high wage sectors. The sectors have been identified in our strategic plan, and we want to target 15 by the end of 2025 and then keep going on that. Participation rates, we want to have 200 participants annually. Total private investment out of these sectors that we build is $2 million annually. Number of tailored workshops, accelerator programs, and incubators, we want to target 3 by Q4 of this year. And we want to have a 85% satisfaction rate with our workshops and programs. And so we already have funding allocation of $45,000 under our budget of Space Ventures. And that is what we want to start with growing that sector, those high sectors. Another one, which we are already underway, is establishing our angel network to support our second stage businesses. We want to secure 12 memberships by the end of our fiscal year, and we want to fund two second stage businesses and host 8 membership events so we can continue growing our membership. We already have allocation of $75,000 in our budget this year. Next, has been on repeat for our community stakeholders is the communication with the leg of permitting. And so it has been recommended that we create a business liaison to streamline the permitting process for small business. This is something we need to work with the city on, if that could be a new job position in the city, or is it something GBEC or BCIC can take on ourselves? But the purpose of it is to help with the onboarding of the permitting process, to make it more accessible, understandable, cut out some of the middlemans that we've been hearing, that they go here and here and here. So they have just a person that they can speak with, and that person can help them on behalf of all the organizations, departments they have to speak with to get their permits. And so we have allocated, our suggestion is allocate 75,000 out of our projects identified in our strategic plan that we have in our budget. And our next one for this, for year one for entrepreneurship, is developing marketing campaign to attract boomerangs who return to start businesses. Our KPIs are a number of returning entrepreneurs applying for our loans, our, eBridge revolving loans. We want to have 15 annually. We want to increase loan distribution by 15% and 50%, 10% registration by returning residents annually, so we can see their registrations. And so a suggestion is 25,000 to create that marketing campaign. For year two, and the same goal is hopefully we can obtain more EDA funds for our revolving loan. Currently, it's not open, so we're gonna keep that on there until it's open. Hopefully with the new administration, he will open the accessibility for applications to reapply for a revolving loan. Next is to launch a mentorship program in the key sectors and second stage businesses. So the KPIs are, number of mentors engaged. We're looking at 25, number of entrepreneurs participating in the mentorship program. We're looking at 50 annually. Percentage of mentees reporting improved business performance, 75%. Return rate of mentors in the program, 85%. So we have, and these are estimates for next year's budget, is $50,000. Next is to develop an outreach program to encourage students to start or work with small businesses. So this would be a pilot program in 3 schools. Number of students enrolled in entrepreneurship-focused curriculum, we're targeting 50. Number of schools adopting the curriculum, we want 5 by the 2027. Percentage of students reporting increased interest in entrepreneurship and small business careers, we want to target 75. Number of partnerships with entrepreneurship and small business for the student engagement, 50. And percentage of students participating in projects or internship, we're looking at 30% of that 50. So funding allocation is $30,000. Next is conducting a workforce skills gap survey for major employers and small business, so we can identify where the gap is and where we can identify recruitment needs for major employers as well as small businesses. So we want to complete a survey with participation of 100 businesses by Q3 of 2026. Number of workforce needs identified, we want to look at 10 industries that identify the industries that we can work with. And number of actionable recommendations, we want to target 5, and we have 100,000 allocated for that, or suggestion. Next is something we have done, we just are not doing it regularly, and we want to start doing that so we can, again, we will help with, outreach programs with our students, is conduct regular eBridge tours with our students. We've conducted 3 or 4 so far since eBridge has been open, but we want to actually host monthly tours with our students. Attendance rate is we want to look at 300 students that come through our doors. Positive feedback from participants is 85%. Number of follow-up inquiries from students for opportunities, we're targeting 20 per year, and we've allocated $10,000. Next is create a campaign support network, including mentorship, peer groups, and incentives for returning professionals. So we want to engage 50 returning professionals through incentives. Number of new businesses started through the program, dollar amounts of incentives utilized, retention rate of the business after 2 years is 80%. Number of mentors recruited for the support of this program, we want to recruit 25. Participation rate in the program, 75% of returning entrepreneurs, and then a satisfaction rate of 90%. And we have allocation of $275,000 for the program. You will see it constantly on repeat is surveys. We want to get feedback from the participants on how we're doing, how do they like the program, the overall experience. So we will be incorporating that on all of our programs. Oops, my bad. And last for the goal 1 is year 3 is create internships and apprenticeship programs for small business. Launch 15 internships, apprenticeships, transitioning to full-time roles is what we're targeting at 40%. Employer satisfaction rate with the program, we're targeting 90%, and we've allocated suggestion is $150,000. Zraima, when you talked about who our peers are thoughtful, there is a program that we stumbled upon at one of our TEDC conferences. They have been very successful with that, so we want to mirror their wins on that. Next is sponsor pitch competitions in the educational institute. So that's K through 12 as well as university, because we currently don't do that. Number of participants, we want to look at 10 annually. Number of winners that we support, 5. Number of businesses launched is 5. Number of sponsors, and the number of sponsors we get to fund it. So we have suggested $75,000. Next is the outreach campaign of the returning professionals. So this is our marketing campaign for that. So number of professionals engaged, we're looking at 200. Relocation, 15%. Increase new jobs created by returning professionals, 50, and then suggestion is 150 for allocation. And develop a resource toolkit for business. We want to have that by Q2 of 2027, and we want to distribute it to 200 businesses minimum. Participate in business implement workplace learning programs, 50%. And then having employers and students feedback at 85% positivity. And we've suggested $75,000 for the campaign as well as all the print. And then last for this goal is connect small business to Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act programs as well as other workforce initiatives. So one thing we have not done, we've left it to our sister organization, is to work with Texas Workforce Commission, and we want to go ahead and start developing our relationships with them to see, since they focus more on higher businesses with more employees, to see how we can incorporate it in the small business sectors. And so the number of small businesses enrolled in the programs, we're targeting 50 annually. Total funding assessed by small business internship is $250,000 annually. Increase in paid internship, we're looking at 25%, and we have suggested it would cost about $75,000 to implement this. So that is goal 1 for the next 3 years for entrepreneurship. Any questions so far?
This is not a question, maybe more of a comment. And this goes back to identifying gaps. Like I think it would be helpful to be really intentional about the types of businesses. I know the downtown sector, I guess industry sector, has been restaurants and bars, et cetera. Yeah. But beyond downtown, like what are the other sectors that are growing in Brownsville that are not in GBIC's domain, right? And so I'm not an expert in this space, but I just continually think people under 18 and people over 50. So home health providers for individuals that are trying to age in place and need some kind of care, or people under 18 who are either 5K and under and need all day care, or all of the daycare events that pick kids up after school because their parents are still working and there's no after school programs at the school. So I just think just what I've read about those two industries, there just seems to be a lot of opportunity for all of this, right? Like mentorship, business design, sustainability, et cetera. And I just think it's gonna continue to be a growing industry based on the demographic of the population. So I don't know if you could make a subset of, again, like what are the sectors that we're looking at? Not just restaurants, not just health food stores, not bars, like what are other small businesses
Yeah.
that need this infusion of knowledge and capital?
The sectors that have been identified are more of professional services that are actually higher paying jobs. That's where the consultants has suggested that we aim our focus, because that has been on, the community feedback was there's not enough high paying jobs. It was for all the 4 town hall meetings that that was one of the priorities, was creating more high-paying jobs. And those high-paying jobs are actually in the professional services, architect, engineering. And so we're looking at how we can fit into that, but you do have a good point of looking outside the box of, you know, helping other residents. So that way they can, you know, be able to do their job and not worry about their personal responsibilities.
Our accelerator program, while like kind of focused, is now only kind of focusing on tech or high growth areas. We doubled this year our Kauffman program, Blueprint Business Program. And from there is where we see a lot of those daycare centers, kind of mom and pop shops, kind of, there's someone who just like sharpens knives, but they've now kind of sharpening equipment for SpaceX. And so like kind of the path they're on there.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good pool to identify kind of some of those emerging sectors. But more and more what I've also been reading is kind of letting go of the laissez-faire attitude and really kind of being methodical of like, we are going to need more, you know, childcare centers. So how about we actively recruit those who may already be doing it out of their house, but kind of get them to a more commercial state. And that's just something that we've been having conversations about the last couple of weeks, but that'll definitely be on the radar, for sure.
No.
2 more things. I think the youth entrepreneurship, again, I think BISD already has some kind of program where they do the CTE, right?
Yeah.
And they get, the kids go through some training and then they donate $5,000 or something to a charity.
They do, but then it just stops.
Right, so I think this is what I'm saying. I'm sure they learned something as a part of that program, but I think what young people need more is just connection to capital, right? Even if it's a little bit of money,
Yeah.
because they're all very entrepreneurial and intuitive, right? I think they just need access. I just think that would be maybe a more impactful way to invest, to direct youth into this entrepreneurial route than like the class where they donate $5,000 to some nonprofit that already exists in Brownsville. I mean, I'm not saying that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
But I like this idea, and I don't, on the budget side, I might put less money towards the tours. Like, I don't know that touring the eBridge Center would be the highest priority for me. I think the higher priority would be connecting a student with somebody who, you know, who's running their entrepreneurial shop out of eBridge.
Mentorship.
Right, to get them that one-on-one.
Mentor and internship, yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to like, oh, we had 300, 500 kids tour the building. Okay. But again, like, I think in terms of where you spend your time and resources, I might focus in that area as opposed to like just getting more people through the door. But I like the idea of the youth entrepreneurship too.
Great points, thank you.
I just one quick comment. As you work through these goals, like for example, I think of the one for the workforce skill gap survey, which is great. You know, try to see if we can take advantage of existing data, right? I'm not an expert, but I'm sure there's already a lot of
Yeah.
commission reports on that, and maybe, I'm sure you'll go through it and then decide, okay, what's missing that's relevant to our story.
Yeah, there's even collaboration opportunities like for that, because not only would we be utilizing it, so would our sister organization. So that might be a collaboration of going together and funding, so we can do it together. There probably is, just need to know what the date is on that.
Yeah.
So and that's why for the ones that are for year 2 and 3, those are still, well, fleshing it out, what is available. That way we can come back and say, you know what, it's right here, or nope, we got to do it. This is our suggestion. But this is what we've been laid out and how we would utilize those surveys, for BCIC's initiatives. Okay, any others before I go to goal 2? All right. So goal 2 is strengthening tourism and downtown development. So year 1 is building the foundations for our initiative, securing funding and cultivating partnerships. And I failed to mention that when I started on goal 1. So that's what our focus on year 1 is, just building our foundation for these initiatives. So the first initiative for goal number 2 for this year is develop more residential housing and diverse business downtown. And so this includes a marketing campaign, incentives. So our KPI is approved 2 new housing and mixed-use projects, number new businesses and residential units developed. So we're targeting 10 new businesses by the end of the year. We're targeting 20 new units that's underdeveloped by the end of the Q4 2026. Percentage of the units meeting affordable criteria, we're targeting 50% of those 20 units. Number of inquiries from our tenants and business, we're looking at 30 annually, target 5 businesses by Q25. And then we're also looking for, 5 distinct industry that would go to downtown that are not restaurants, they're not retail, and they're not bars. So we're looking to diversify downtown in these businesses. So we're targeting 5 by the Q2 of 2026. And next initiative is a boost downtown amenities. That's more beautification. So add 3 new amenities completed. That could be benches, art illustration, it could be trash receptacles, could be taking, what's that?
Fixing the clock by Market Square.
It could be, yeah. It could be a number of those things, but that's what we're going to try to aim for is, start the initiative of beautification, and who will be our partners, obviously the city and all. So we want to target 3 new completions by the end of this year, 20% increase in our satisfaction of our visitors and foot traffic, and 10% of crime rate reduction, by the end of 2026. So we have allocated $150,000 for those amenities, and that would come out of our BCIC projects. Next one, and which is very crucial, is address the food desert issues in downtown. Luckily, we do have 2 organizations that are taking that under their wing. But our suggestion is that we should help those businesses and not just what we normally do with our rent subsidy with our current program, is maybe subsidize them for more than 1 year, maybe a few years. So that way we can have that start generating the traffic for them.
I have a question. What is identified from BSP study? What's BSP?
Brownsville Sports Park and the strategic plan.
Okay, so the Brownsville Sports Park study is the one we did.
Correct, the HUD.
I just wondered, is that a adopted plan with the city of Brownsville? Or
No, that's the one we're doing.
Okay.
It's, when we put in our budget this year, we put a line item for half of the 50% of the unrestricted. We put it under this category of projects that are identified under our Brownsville Sports Park
I got it.
plan, as well as the
It's
strategic
making
plan.
sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, next is creating a market campaign to improve the connectivity between the college campuses and downtown. One thing we have noticed is we have the 2 colleges campuses downtown, but we don't see any students coming this way in shopping, dining, or doing any walkability. We haven't seen any of that. And so that's a missed opportunity for the city. And so we want to first create a campaign to promote downtown to these students. And so the number of students are engaged with the campaign, we're targeting 2,000. We want to increase the foot traffic by 15% between the campuses and downtown. And we figured $30,000 would help with that campaign. And for the last one for this year is create a position to recruit concerts, sporting events, and other events at the sports park, which we've already have in our maintenance and operations, but it's important to keep it in there as we continue doing the maintenance operations, is making sure the city has a dedicated person at the sports park that is solely for events hosted, recruiting those events hosted so it can help with the traffic that happens at the sports park. And so we want to see a number of events hosted at the park annually. We want to look at 20 of new events. I should say new. It should clarify that it's not the current events they're doing, but 20 new events. Sorry about that. And then revenue generated from the events, we want to target $500,000. And so we already have it allocated, $500,000, but ideally $100,000 is for that staff's salary and benefits.
I have a question about that one, because it seems to me that is out of our control.
It's in our maintenance and operations.
Okay,
So
so we can insist then that, okay.
we put it in the maintenance operations.
They're a city employee or they're?
Yeah, a city employee.
Okay, got it.
That it's included in the maintenance operations of this year that they would have a dedicated person that is focusing on these items.
Corey, I have two. On the residential housing and diverse business downtown, I think you're trying to do a lot in that one. And again, I would go back to fill the gaps. Affordable housing is very difficult to do. There are already organizations in Brownsville that is their bread and butter, that is their area of expertise. It's also extremely expensive. Like, I don't know, the 20 units, 350,000, you could spend 350,000 on 5, you'd like subsidizing that. So I would just say spend some more time on this one, determine, is it really increasing the diverse number of businesses, right, in this downtown to supplement that? I just think you're trying to do a lot in that little bullet, and you might not be able to do it all.
Okay.
And then boost downtown amenities. This is not gonna sound attractive, but I think a practical amenity is public restrooms. There are no public restrooms downtown. If you have children, you need to change a diaper, you're stuck downtown, it's a mess. You have to either go to the bus station, right? In all of the shopping area, you have to be in a restaurant, a patron at the restaurant, use the restroom. I mean, I get it, art, important, all of that, but I think in terms of quality of life, it would be great to have a public restroom somewhere downtown, especially for people with small kids when they're in the downtown area. I don't know who else will take that on, but I think it would be a great amenity
Yeah.
in the downtown space.
We can also see because the city is now taking over Market Square again, we can see
Yeah.
if that facility is open during the day.
I know there'll be reservations about it, but maintaining it, who comes in, who comes out, but I just think if you've ever been downtown with kids, it's a mess. If
Yeah.
someone has to use the restroom. So those are my two
Yeah.
thoughts.
For going back to the residential housing, the way for us to grow downtown is to grow up, is to build a density. And so residential, activating the second floors and above is a priority. And I know we'll see it as they undertake the downtown master plan, is building the residential. So our idea is incentivizing for the property owners to, turn their second stories into residential instead of being empty or being a storage unit. All right. Year 2. I have to read it from here because I can't read on that. Year 2 is, we have a lot of initiatives for the tourism and downtown development. The first one is implementing a safety awareness campaign for downtown. So we will have to work with the city on that, as well as the police department. But I think it's really important to come up with some creative campaign to combat the perception of downtown. Because there is that perception that it's not safe. So we want to start working on a campaign for that. So that is to reduce the negative safety perceptions. We want to target 30% improvement in safety perception ratings in surveys, a number of safety improvement measures. So those could be patrols, cameras by, 2026, Q3 of 2026. Reduce reported incidents of 20% by Q4 of 27. And the campaign would be $50,000. Next is conduct a feasibility study on transportation options and improve links between campus and downtown. This again would be something we would work with the city, and this also could possibly be part of downtown's master plan. So, but we feel like it's really important to keep it in our initiatives, so that way when downtown master plan is underway, we can team up with them.
Campuses?
What's that?
What do you mean campuses? Like the university campuses?
Yeah, in TSC.
Oh, in TSC.
So it's 2 campuses.
Got
Could actually even think of 3 campuses if you think of the iTech. We feel like it's really important to find out, again, why aren't they not crossing international? And so we want to do a study on that. So we want to have it completed by Q4 2026. Hopefully the downtown master plan will incorporate this into it. If not, then we'll have to maybe partner with B Metro, since it's the transportation components. Recommendations implemented based on study findings. We want to target 3 transportation improvements by Q4 27 and reduce reported incidents by 20% in Q27. You know what? I don't know what that one means. I think that was put in there by mistake. So disregard that one. There where it says reduce reported incidents by 20%. I believe that was a cut and paste from the top one, so I apologize. That should not be in there. And funding allocation is $75,000 for the study. And that could actually, again, as we get closer to budget year, as we start working on, these initiatives, later on in the months here, we'll find those partners to find out, if the costs can be reduced and such. Where can be the cost sharing? Next is support our entrepreneurs in creating space-related tourism businesses. Because of the popularity of SpaceX and the influx of visitors we do get, we want to encourage a number of space-related tourism business supported. We want to increase the visitors' numbers, and we allocated $200,000 for that. Next is create an entertainment district to incentivize the private sector development of the sports park. This is all based on if we go with, what plan we go with once we, for the Hudden recommendation, which one we want to go with and all that. So depending on what we go with, this might be something we need to do to see if we can make it a TIF zone, a tax increment zone. So if we do that, then we want to look at a number of businesses established in that entertainment district, increase in visitor spending. And so there's not a funding allocation yet. That would have to be determined. Another one is to expand our nature tourism and highlight our environmental assets. So the KPIs are a number of ecotourism trails or programs launched. We're looking at 3 by 2027, increase visitors to our reserves and our attractions. We're looking at 25% annually. Number of marketing campaigns launched, we're looking at 2 annually, and reach and engagement metrics for marketing campaigns, we're looking at 500 impressions. Funding allocation is suggested at $350,000. Again, this could be a cost share with our neighbors, with CVB, also with other organizations. I mean, we have Gordis Foundation, we have the Audubon, so there's opportunities for us to reach out and partner to help with those funds and look at grants. Next is enhance our tourism infrastructure through wayfinding and signage. One thing we have heard on repeat too is there's not enough signage for our assets. And so we need to conduct a signage assessment. With that, the completion of that, we want to have it completed by the first quarter of 2026. We want to target 10 stakeholder engagements with that. Number of signs installed, we want to target 2 by the Q3 of 2026. Another opportunity is at the airport, there's many of the screens, and that's something we can take advantage of. I know that I believe with our funding that we have for the airport, we have opportunity to take a screen, and so we want to utilize it for our assets. Yeah. And also we would have to see what is not being advertised, so it's not a duplication at the airports.
Okay, I see what you mean. I was trying to understand this goal, but okay.
Yeah. Engagement with digital media campaigns, we want to target 10,000 impressions within the 3 months. Visitor satisfaction rate, we target 85% of airport signage by the end of 2026, and suggestion is 75,000 for the campaign. And next is to pursue additional opportunities for grants. We want to look at where can we get grants on behalf of other organizations to help with the enhancement of tourism, the enhancement of downtown, as well as quality of life. But we did put it under this one, but it could be for any of those. And so a total amount of additional grant funding secure annually, we want to target 2 annually. We want to have a number of community assets improved through these grants, and as always, we always have a line item for grant matches, $250,000, so we want to continue having that grant match in our line item for our budget. And last, for year 2, is identify and develop new projects with measurable community impact by partnering with organizations and securing grants. So a number of new projects initiated is 5 annually. Partnerships formed with community organizations is 10. Resident satisfaction with new community projects, 85%, and we fund $300,000 annually. Currently, right now, we have our quality of life grants, and so we have 1.3 million, and so that is an overall, and we have it as an open cycle. So we would like to carve out some of that funding to go specifically for organizations we're working with to try to get grants for and try to implement projects that will help with the community. For instance, PUB has a property on Owens Road, and many moons ago, BCIC funded a botanical gardens. And we were only laid out the walking and the parking lot. So PUB now owns it because it was a private ownership.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and so PUB is actually looking at, doing the project again, or I should say, taking that project and becoming theirs. And so we want to work with them to see how we can collaborate and co-share and see what grants are available for us to see that happen. And that if that's being built, then that's additionally one new park as well as a nature park. So it hits a lot of checks off that.
I have 2 comments. One, I think this is admirable. It's all very interesting. It's definitely worthwhile. But this is where I think you need the prioritization criteria. There's a lot on here, and I'm afraid, like, you don't have a huge staff, you're going in a lot of directions, you don't want to spread yourself too thin, you can't really measure the impact of any one thing because you're doing 10 things all at the same time. I would say, like, throughout this document, refocus. Is it small business development? Is it downtown? Is it youth entrepreneurs? Is it boomerang engagement seniors, whatever? Is it marketing, right? Like, I admire, like, your desire to do all these things. I just think you could accidentally spread BCIC too thin And then it's like, well, what impact did we have on any one of these items? That's my concern. And then secondly, I don't think you need to allocate any BCIC funding to space-related tourism, or space-related visitor center, or space-related anything. I think SpaceX, from what I understand, people want to see SpaceX independently. I don't know that anyone here needs to invest in bringing tourists. I think I wouldn't go, but people are going regardless. So I just don't think, again, given your time, right, your capacity and your budget, maybe that's an area that I would totally deprioritize to the bottom. That's just my 2 cents.
I like to hear, because, these are initiatives, I like to hear what the board thinks on that, on regards to space tourism. Or is that something, it can, again, since this is more of a year 2 and year 3, it can be discussed, when we do a review in June, when we look at priorities for 2026.
I'm on the SpaceX visitors group on Facebook, and there are people coming here from Japan, Korea, and they have no clue. They're like, what airport do I fly into? How do I get from the airport to SpaceX? They have no clue.
Yep.
And so they're just waiting for, and then there's people saying, well, there's not enough cars to rent at the Brownsville airport. You'll get there and there's no rentals, so don't rely on that. And they come last minute, right? Because then they say, oh, the launch is going to be on the 25th. Then people they spend thousands of dollars to get here, and then they get here and there's no rental cars.
Yeah.
So they were asking, one guy was like, can anyone pick me up? Like, can I come with you? Because there's no cars, there's no Ubers, there's no nothing.
Yeah.
So
The one thing you
there's a
could
lot of
look
work.
at as well is we don't capture a lot of the visitors that do come to SpaceX for the launch. The island does, but that's only for that window. So there's an opportunity for us to capture those visitors to come to Brownsville before or after the launch to spend their time. So that's an idea of maybe how we can market, is to those visitors to let them know, hey, there's other things to do while you're here. Hey, come check us out.
They're looking for like a cheaper place to stay
Yeah.
than, the island prices on a launch day.
Again, this is also, we would have to collaborate with the CVB, because they do have, their marketing, and they do have a dedicated, space tourism. But it's just something we feel like what are the gaps that they can't fulfill because they only get limited funding because of, the hotel motel stay. So there's opportunity just to find out, like you said, our gaps. So it's not really maybe something we undertake all, but maybe we partner and we're just a funder for it. But that's definitely where, for the year 2 and year 3, these are things that we will start investigating and see where those things are and narrow it down to be very specific on how we're going to do it. Okay. I feel like I'm losing y'all. Okay. So last on year 3 is for the tourism downtown development is evaluate and adjust our downtown programs by Q3 of 2026. So we want to achieve 90% positive feedback on our downtown appearance, 40% increase in total investment from 2024, 40% increase of number of jobs created from 2024, target 80% in client business viability rate within the 2 years, number of business activated. So we want to look at what we currently have, businesses vacant, and how are we doing by this time, by Q3 of 27? How many have we decreased? How effective are our programs? And the number of new residential units added, 50% of, is it meeting the affordability rate? And are those that have been built, are they 70% occupied? And this is how, Mark, you mentioned, how can we phase out some of the initiatives that we have for BIG? So this is how we feel like, for accountability, we can look at for the next 2 years of, our initiatives, how we're doing, what is our job rates, do we continue, is it now time to pivot those funds for BIG, or just keep a part of it and look at something else? And so that is our way to look and see if that's our exit plan. Another suggestion by our consultants is develop a visitor center for space tourism. And so that is, again, that is just, if that feels like the city, that would be a city undertake. And then, again, that would be, is that something we can help with for their gap funding? And so if it is, what we look at is, engagement rates, 10,000 visitors, those KPIs, if it's something we want to, partner with the city, if they even want to do that. And the reason we're keeping that in there because, it's 2025, 2 years from now, a lot of things could change. Tourism could increase, it could flop. So it's just something they feel like it should be on our radar and to support if it's something that the city feels like they want to do or even a private business. Next is fund a tourism development plan to assess how to establish the American capital for Hispanic culture and heritage destination. So we want to complete a tourism development plan by Q4 27. With that, a number of cultural tourism initiatives launch. We want 3 annually. Visitation is 20%. Again, this is with partnership with the MIDI, the CVB, and other organizations that are into our culture and our heritage to see if this is a destination that we want to be. It would be a branding. It's more of a branding. And so, but it's been suggested that the consultants look at why can't Brownsville be this for America? And next is upgrade or expand parking facilities for downtown. So increase parking availability by 25%. User rate for parking experience is 80% positive feedback. Reduction of 25% in parking complaints by visitors. Funding allocation, that would be determined. Again, this would come out of, it has been mentioned from the city that they might put this in their certificate of obligation, the COs, for dedicated funds for our parking garage. We have also talked with interesting parties who want to do a P3 model. And so they would fund it, and then the city, even BCIC, could help fund back some infrastructure improvements on it. So there's opportunity to see what is best for the city and BCIC to assist in. And so that's it for tourism and downtown development. Next is goal 3, expanding the quality of life through community development. So our strategies are expanding healthcare access, recreational projects and quality of life enhancements, improve retail options, and form more collaboration and partnerships and other quality of life projects. So year 1 is conducting a feasibility study on our as an indoor venue for the sports park. We are underway on that. Ours is more of a feasibility market analysis of other ideas besides an indoor venue. So that has already been allocated at $250,000, but the consultants felt like because of the feedback from the community and our stakeholders, there needs to be an indoor venue. And so they know of our properties for sports parks. So we are underway on that to determine if that's the best use for the sports park. Next is perform a detailed retail gap analysis to identify underserved categories and opportunities for retail growth. So we want to complete a retail gap analysis by the end of this fiscal year and have a number of actionable recommendations from the strategies and a number of recruitment findings by end of 2026. And so we have already allocated $75,000 in our budget to do that retail gap analysis. Next is conduct a parking needs assessment and community feedback survey. Again, this could actually be undertaken with the downtown master plan. So we want to keep it in our initiatives, but I think this is another collaboration for the downtown master plan that the city's undertaking to see if they can include this. We want to also develop a better digital, actually, we don't have a marketing campaign for retail options. We have now, finally, we do have, Nelson, what is that called? Resimplify. Oh, yeah. We have a Resimplify on our website of available properties of all of Brownsville. But we don't have a campaign of targeting businesses for those availabilities. So we feel it is very important, not only for downtown, but all of Brownsville, to showcase areas of Brownsville that they could start their businesses.
Corey, just a suggestion. Do you think we could, take 1-2 minutes, read over the page, and then ask any questions?
Instead of going through it?
Yeah.
I would agree, because my throat is...
Okay. Do you guys want to take 2 or 3 minutes to read over this page and then questions?
Sure. I actually have a question. So the only thing that kind of stands out
Yes.
from this slide is that I agree, obviously there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done, but I don't know, how can we tighten up kind of the collaboration between the city, obviously, they have an agenda and a wish list, and there's probably some things that I don't think should be funded through quality of progress for the city. Like lighting, I think that's a city function, and the city, municipality should provide lighting for a park. You know what I'm saying? So how can we increase that collaboration, and how can we better fine tune the process of actually true quality of life projects, or the wish list of folks from the city? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty big important question.
Which is, the second to the last bullet is prioritizing projects. And this is with what we have, the 50% allocation.
Right.
I think it's really important that we keep that in our strategic plan, because it is 50% of our sales tax revenue. And so on there, having that collaboration, encouraging that we do have those at least 2 meetings a year with the city commission, so we're on the same page. I think it's important for them to know that as a BCIC board, and based on our strategic plan, things that you feel like should be prioritized, even though it's in their master plan or studies, is it the right fit for both BCIC and the city for those funds?
Yeah, maybe establish some sort of parameters for.
Yes.
Community benefit and why, kind of link the two opportunities.
Yes.
The two whys and kind of move forward.
And so I think as the park master plan, because I think they're still under negotiation for the. They're under negotiation with it to get underway. I think that is our opportunity of what comes out of that is how we can prioritize that 50% into what is coming out of that plan. And only focus on that new plan, maybe, if that's what the board feels. But I think once we get the plan out and be able to know what initiatives have come out of that plan, I think it'll be able to prioritize how we wish for them to consider our funding for.
Are there any other questions on goal 3 year 1?
Yeah, I've got one. Under the bullet boost partnerships with nonprofits and educational institutions, my question on that is, to what end? So when I read every bullet point, I want kind of the answer to so what to be identifiable. And on that one, I don't understand the why.
Okay, the why is to build capacity for the nonprofits. It has been identified is a lot of the nonprofits feel like they're not, one is facilitate the communication between the city, BCIC, GBEC, and the nonprofits. They feel like they're in silos and they're not being at the table to hear what's going on. Another thing we've discovered is the capacity, building their capacity so they can be scalable, they can help assist more. Is it just funding, professional development, partnering up and having someone come in, help them with their professional development, have it as a cohort. Looking at ideas on that, UTRGV's Nonprofit Resource Center just opened up 2 blocks down. And so they would see how we can partner with them and with their goals on building that capacity with nonprofits. We feel like this might not, it's more of just facilitating maybe at this point. But then looking at, is there, for instance, maybe United Way, is there a way to, if they had more funding, can they build their capacity for, VITA, their financial literacy? Could they go assist more of the community if they had a little bit more help? So we need to look at, what's out there that we could help fill that gap if it can build their capacity.
I think that's a lot to expect for a $20,000 funding allocation.
Well, that's currently what we have just for this year.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I think that it's worthy of any funding at all, but I think the way it's worded here is pretty vague, and it just doesn't answer my question about why.
Okay.
Why would we want to do this? I feel like that if we're going to leave it in there, it probably needs to be a bit more explicit.
I believe I do have it in what I sent you on Friday, a more description of
Okay.
this. So this is more just bullet points, but I have descriptions
All right.
on that. And this may be more of just summarized because of the presentation. But I will look and make sure that is, we have the so what addressed.
Okay, let's move on to year 2. Everyone take just a minute to read over it.
I just had, these are great, for example, the measurements of downtown foot traffic, but I guess any ideas on how you would even measure that?
Actually, we have a program called Placer, and so we have geofence downtown, and we can actually, is it 3-day leg?
No, it's actually 15 days.
It's 15-day leg. So we are able to track for, is it 3 years or 7 years back?
I think it's 3 to 5, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, so our software is able to track previous years to the current year and to the current time. And so we can look at, and it follows by cell phone and credit cards, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
We recently did. We recently did a study on the UTRGV graduation and the economic impact that had. And what's cool is you can kind of see all the people that show up to a graduation and then where they end up to spend money. I mean, a lot of it was local, right? But that's now local money that's going to be spent in Edinburgh because those graduations aren't here. But we had thought for a while to put a people counter at the front of eBridge, but we've actually get better data from Placer because the people counter will count me every day that I walk in. Placer recognizes me and all of the BCIC staff and UTRGV staff as staff here, so we're not counted as unique visitors, unlike a people counter would.
Yeah.
So.
And so we are actually, that's a co-share cost with CVB. So we're on year 3 with Placer. Because we found it beneficial, and so did CVB, and we were lucky enough to say, instead of duplicating, if we could, co-share the software.
Wow, that's incredible. I think that platform, and that answers a lot of the other questions I had. I'm like, how are you gonna measure these things?
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
And so Placer
Placer's
is
capability,
definitely the tool for traffic counts of how we can measure.
So let's move on to year 3. Take a minute to read.
This is actually, on year 3, is really focusing on healthcare. The one also, again, was a priority in our town hall meetings was access to healthcare. You know, the community's, you know, tired of leaving Brownsville or leaving the valley to get quality healthcare, in their opinion. And so, and another thing that the consultants uncovered is a lot of our small businesses don't provide health care benefits. And so, in this, for year 3, is to look at how we can partner up to expose businesses to, you know, maybe lower cost healthcare benefits, so it can be more of a benefit for their employee. Also look at healthcare access, you know, targeting specialty doctors, working with our hospitals and our medical clinics. You know, also what we've noticed is that we don't have a lot of clinics in underserved areas, so how can we incentivize expansion to the underserved areas of Brownsville, so they don't have to travel too far for a, you know, a visit.
Okay, I think that wraps up goal 3.
Any questions on that?
Sorry, I got hungry. Take on develop a research toolkit for employer-sponsored insurance programs. Again, I would encourage you, like, focus. What is BCIC's lane? What is the School of Public Health lane? What is Workforce Solutions lane? Like, really figure out what is BCIC's role in this health, you know, dilemma. I think maybe a potential, again, prioritize these. Instead of a resource toolkit, I think what you will find when you speak with small employers is just the cost. Right? The cost of providing health insurance is what's prohibitive. So maybe BCIC could play a role in helping them figure out how to pool, right? If you've got 10 daycare centers that are willing to come together, provide benefits through a pooled resource, maybe that's an opportunity. I don't know if a toolkit is necessarily the answer. I think what they need is help facilitating like that process. So that's my only comment there.
You know, Soraya brings up a good point. That reminds me, I don't know if this still exists, but I had a cousin who was a musician in Austin, and the city, I don't know if it was a city or some sort of type A or type B EDC that organized like a pool for musicians to have health insurance.
It might have been the chamber too.
It could have been, and I thought that was really, obviously,
Yeah.
they call it the music capital. There's a bunch of people, musicians, that's what they do.
Yeah.
And they provided some sort of system to provide that health support for them. And I thought that, and he was a part of that, and I was like, wow, that is really cool. So things like that, I mean, to Soraima's point, I
Yeah.
think those are
Then, which is the
valuable
the
things
last,
to look
the
at.
last
Yeah.
bullet, yeah, I agree. And the consultant said our partnership should probably be with the Chamber of Commerce to see how we can collaborate and co-share, and maybe actually have them take on the initiative, and we just help fund the gap. Any other questions on that? All right, last one is goal 4, you know, advancing our organization. So on goal, for year 1 is we're looking at, you know, marketing campaign. We already have that in our budget, but it's important on board trainings, streamlining our internal processes for policies and procedures, professional development, creating a program that measures or keeps track of our professional development. Well, I think it's called talent performance software. So we're looking at how we can implement that, so we can make sure that our staff is actually getting the professional development to increase their skill sets as we move along and move forward in BCIC. Another one that we don't have, and we've been researching, and we're still researching because we find a lot of them are real expensive, is a quality CRM program that fits our needs, all of our needs, not only for entrepreneurship, but for our community development and for our organization. One thing that staff is they don't want so many softwares that they have to go. We want a one-stop shop, and that would help with them. So we're still going through those to see what is the best fit for BCIC. And that will be, unfortunately, none of it is inexpensive, so that is something we're looking at and then taking it to the board so we can implement it. And another thing that is really important for me, for our organization and for eBridge, as well as for the business, is disaster recovery plan for the organization eBridge and for business resilience. After everything that's happened over the summer in, the other states, it's something we don't have. We don't know, we don't have a protocol of, if disaster happens, what happens to the staff, what happens to the organization, where do we run, what happens to eBridge? So it's really important that we get that organized.
Questions? Mm-hmm.
Two, I think the CRM that should be the highest priority.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, I just see you spinning circles, like, in an Excel sheet here and tracking this there, So
Agree.
Salesforce will, like, this is an example, it can be built to do anything,
Yeah.
customized for any organization. I know it's expensive, but potentially worth the cost, so I would really encourage an
We
investment.
did have Salesforce, and unfortunately, none of us didn't like it, as well as our users didn't like it, because we also had a grant mechanism with Salesforce, and it wasn't user-friendly. And so we're looking at something else that is user-friendly and meets all of our needs. But Salesforce, unfortunately, didn't work for us.
Okay, I might go back to the drawing board on Salesforce. I'm not a tech person, but I know, I've just seen so many different types of platforms built. I think it really depends on who's building it for you, and a lot of times you have to get a subcontractor. You can't just go directly
Yeah.
to Salesforce, and that's what's expensive. I get that. And then secondly, I think the workshops for small businesses, again, what's BCIC's role? Disaster recovery plans, I would bet like 90% of small businesses in Brownsville probably don't have one, right? And we're on the coast, and disasters are just gonna be increasingly part of everyone's reality.
Yeah.
I think that would be like, where does BCIC fill that gap? That would be a great place, because they don't have the capacity, the time, or the expertise to develop it on their own.
Agreed.
So I really like that.
Yeah, I feel it's really important. Because like you said, most of these our businesses here locally probably do not have a plan, us included, including us. Yeah, and it was a wake-up call for me, just seeing everything that's happened over the summer. It's
Yeah,
wow.
I like that disaster recovery plan, and I think there's opportunities through state resources. I think of like TEEX, the Texas Engineering Extension Services. They
Yeah.
offer a lot of development plans for organizations, so maybe partnering with them. But yeah, it's very important that businesses think on these terms.
You said T's?
TEEX, yeah.
Teeks, okay.
Yeah, they do a lot of training in Texas, and they partner with FEMA. I've been through a lot of their training through the university, and a lot of it is free. So could be opportunities there for
Yeah.
them all.
Thank you, that's awesome. And so year 2 and 3, the one thing I wanted to point out is in 27 is, I think it's really important to have a business disaster recovery loan fund. Already, we have a plan, so if the time ever does happen, we can initiate it very quickly. And I want to allocate a percentage of the rainy day fund to that. So that's something we need to, as we develop it and what that loan program is, then we can decide how much funding it is and how much funds do we want to have for operation for BCIC, and how much we want to put into, a forgivable loan or a small interest loan for our businesses. And we can use the rainy day fund for that. Okay. Any questions? I'm gonna go really. So all of these initiatives, with initiatives, we have many action items on that. And that came from the SWOT analysis that was done, as well as the community impact. So, and it came from our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats. And that's how these plans came about. So I did a summary of the funding allocations to kind of get an idea. Again, these are estimates except for year one. Year two and year three are just estimates. And again, this is something, what we want to do is do every 6 months a review. How are we doing on our plan? You know, are we on track? Are we on risk? You know, what things have come out of it? So on year one, we already have budgeted $925,000 for initiatives, and it's suggested that an additional $910,000 coming out of that line item for BCIC projects identified with BSP and our strategic plan. Of course, all of those would still go before the board before it's an actual line item. And then year two and year three. Any questions?
Just a quick comment. I guess for me, I'm hung up on the order of this, and I guess my recommendation would be if there's any way to put quality of life and community development at the top, because I think it was goal 3, right? Because it's such a big part of BCAC, but I don't want the lens of people to get confused and like, oh, well, that's not important to you all. Like, no, it is, but I know it doesn't matter, right? When you set up these goals, they're all.
But the
important.
perception.
The perception of it
I agree.
might throw some of the public off.
Okay. I agree with that, actually.
Good feedback.
We might also want to figure out a way to highlight further the 3.39 million for city quality of life projects. I hate for that to get lost in there, so I don't know if it's a highlight or a color or what, but I think we need to
Or you
make,
put the total as add 3.39 plus 480 as
True.
a total, and then put, you know, blank city plus
That's the,
BCIC
yeah.
or
yeah,
whatever.
because I,
Or, I mean, I don't
It's a
know.
three- it would be
we just,
3.9.
or
Yeah.
can we just own it and just put it as one big lump sum?
Because
So
it-
it
yeah,
just shows
3.9.
like, look at what we're doing for quality of life. But we know internally there's some ordinances that mandate
Yeah.
our work, right?
I like that. I concur. All right. Great suggestions. Okay, any additional feedback on this, or things that you feel like it's not in there that we should think about? And we could do some research and see if that's an initiative we want to undertake. Are the KPIs realistic and achievable? So you've come back with some good points, so we'll definitely look at that. And again, we want to do is, especially this year, we already have the KPIs, and we want to do a 6-month review in June to let you know how are we doing, and then what initiatives we're going to be undertaking in 2026. And so those KPIs can be refined to be more specific if we feel like, you know what, we were a little loosey-goosey, maybe we need to be more detailed on it. So every 6 months, we want to provide an update or a report card and what we're working ahead on.
It's kind of random, but when we were going through them, the comment about like a space visitor center, I was thinking consider instead funding, I know the Children's Museum has another building that they want to outfit as a like older children's museum that's space.
A science
I thought it was
center.
science and space, but I thought it was space themed. Well, you might, I don't know, they could have changed. It could be science or space. I
I'm
don't
trying to
know
think
what
of
it
the
is.
name they have, they want to copyright, but I better not say it out loud.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Whatever it be, but maybe like, instead of doing something that's just for tourists, do something that's for the community. And tourists would, like, you could say, oh, if you want to learn about the history of SpaceX, it's in, there's a section in the Children's Museum.
yeah,
or-
because their
Space
idea
Museum.
is to be more for not just
It's for
older
older
kids,
kids,
but
like
it's for
teenagers.
adults too,
Oh, there you go.
because they,
So maybe like having instead of doing like something, yeah, because people in Brownsville would use that all
Yeah.
year.
one of their goals is, date night. It's an opportunity to go,
Cool.
for adults. Okay,
Corey, two things. I think overall, obviously, a lot of work went into this, so appreciate that. A lot of work, a lot of thought, I'm sure on behalf of the staff, like, ideas, right? Like, ideation sometimes can be the most exciting part, but also the most challenging part to discipline ourselves. I think overall, I would just, and again, Jill and I won't be here, but next year, right? Like, really take a disciplined approach to refining this so that you're not trying to do so many things that you kind of drown out your impact. Like, let's focus on a few key things and do them really, really well.
prioritize.
Prioritize. And then I think secondly, that question, are proposed initiatives aligned with Brownsville's needs? And I would maybe add a second question, are the proposed initiatives aligned with BCIC's role? Right, so kind of consider those things in tangent, not just like, what does the community need? The community needs so many things, but what is BCIC's role specifically to meet that need? And then that could be another, I think, like, way of prioritizing some of
Okay.
these really good ideas. They're all very good ideas. I'm just afraid you can't do them all.
Yeah. Anybody else? So our next steps is incorporate this feedback, tweak the things that were suggested. We want to launch this beginning next month. We want to start a marketing campaign. We want to start holding, again, town hall meetings to let the community know these are the findings. These are what, from your engagement, these are what initiatives we want to do, we want to undertake, and how we're going to do that. Again, I want to conduct a mid-year review of how we're doing in June, and we want to do this every 6 months. And this is important to help with budgeting, to make sure that, you know, we have enough, we're budgeting the initiatives, the priorities correctly. And that's it.
So, Zoraima,
Yeah.
you were saying if you probably would pick one goal. What goal would you pick?
Out of the four,
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, I'm assuming you were saying pick one goal, focus on that.
One of the four. Were you saying one of the four, or you were saying like the bullets
Prioritizing.
under prioritize, like
yeah.
instead of
I
having
think-
Prioritize.
Yeah.
18
Right.
bullets, have 2 or 3?
Right, like, these are the top three. I realize it's year by year, but even year by year, it's just a lot. I just think it's a lot to try to accomplish
Yeah.
in 1 year. But since Mark asked, what goal would I prioritize? Since he
Yeah.
asked, I would definitely prioritize goal 1, so accelerating that small business development, right, meeting that gap because no one else is doing that. And then I would prioritize the quality of life, so I would say goal 1 and 3. And I think goal 4 to me is almost like less of, I don't even know if it needs to be included in the strategic plan. I think that's like basic operating principles, right? Like that should be built into what BCIC is striving to do as an organization. I don't know if I would include it in a strategic plan, but I'm not a strategic plan expert. That's just my thoughts, since you asked.
I agree
Anybody
with,
else?
I'm sorry.
Go
Mark.
ahead.
I agree with everything you said, except I do think it's imperative that we put our organizational development in the plan, just to put it out there and say that this is something we care about and that we're gonna work on. Yeah, maybe it should go without saying, but I like the fact that it's in the plan, because then it kind of forces us to follow through on all those things. Not that we wouldn't otherwise, but.
There's extra accountability.
Yes, I agree with Tracy's
Another.
point. It does create a public accountability chain, which sometimes is what you need, right? Like that public pressure to be like, So, agree.
Go ahead, Mark, I know you had a
No,
comment.
I'm just thinking, like, I'm just trying to gauge what the board feels would be, I mean, does that resonate, the prioritization, and if so, what would you guys prioritize?
I'm trying to look back at when we did the exercise in June or July, that actually prioritized. I took pictures of the board, of the.
mean, my opinion is like 3 per year. You're gonna be, you have 3 times 4, so that's 12. That's enough. Like, you're gonna be very busy.
It's an incredibly ambitious plan.
And, I think some of the bullets, just by themselves, like, are probably not realistic, not achievable.
Which
You know,
one?
well, like the healthcare specialists. I mean, there may be a very good reason why healthcare specialists are not coming here. And that is something that, can't necessarily be moved by
No.
trying to incentivize them directly or,
I guess you can also look at is something we're investigating, and then we can come back and say, you know what, this is what we uncovered, and this can't be accomplished. And I think that's why the consultants put it on the plan, is something to have the conversations with our healthcare providers to find out what are the reasons? Is it something that can be with incentivizing or with assistance of just marketing, would that help? Or is it just, it's just not accessible for us? It's just not the location, the pay, it's not, the consultants feel like if we should investigate to find out if that's an opportunity. Doesn't necessarily mean we're gonna do it, it's just, these are our findings, and this is where we found where we can be successful, or it's not gonna be successful, or it's already been undertaken.
I mean, I do think the strategic plan should be laser focused on actionable items. And we need to say, we need to be thinking about what are we gonna do in the next 5 years. I thought this was a 5-year plan.
It
And-
is, because after 2027, this is, all the initiatives, we're running it for the next, 2 years, and we're still having KPIs, and then we go back and say, here's how we done it. But those, it's implementation for those 2 years.
So, I can see, with the healthcare stuff, there's probably we can go through the list, but there are other things where they're just not achievable. They're more for doing research. And, I believe gathering intel is a good thing. That in itself could be an objective. So, and just saying I don't know if this would be a measure, but just having a brief report and starting off by talking to the healthcare specialists. Like, I would go to the School of Public Health, I would go to all the hospitals. I'm sure that this is in their wheelhouse, and I'm sure they have a lot of things to say. Whether that should be done by the staff, I don't know. Like, I would probably farm that out to maybe even the university, try to get, farm it out to the School of Public Health. You can commission a study saying, what are the obstacles to getting, do we need healthcare specialists? Maybe that's not the answer. Maybe the easiest thing to do is to get people to Corpus or McAllen or San Antonio as quickly as possible. And how? How do we link that up? That I think, like, if you could pick any of these as an organization. I feel like not just the goals, some of these bullets, and just focus on doing that. And that would be a lot of work for a staff of 8 people.
I guess I should also point out that with these initiatives, as we investigate, is delegation. So maybe most of these we won't undertake, but it's delegation, and we're just a funder. And so we're giving the tools for that partnership to do their job, to provide that.
And that needs, I think, to be outlined. What I was looking for in the strategic plan is okay, the how. How are we going to do this? How are we going to implement it? So and the why, right? So for getting the boomerangs, why have them come back just for businesses, right? Why not, to start a small business? Why not just bring them back and have them bring their salary, right? They work remotely. Because there are already existing programs like that. I don't feel like we need to necessarily create something new. I think we could just adopt what's already out there and then customize it for Brownsville. And then, so then, you know, with the boomerangs, if we were just bringing back, you know, people to Brownsville, who are we targeting? How are we gonna target them? Like, are we gonna target BISD alumni?
And UTRGV alumni, St. Joe alumni, there's a lot of alumni programs.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they're the alumni programs, but they also have the data on who the alumni
Yes.
are, you know, and getting that information. So I would say, we're gonna get that data, we're gonna like send mailers to their homes, whatever, text messages. I don't know, but I mean, I guess I would like to know a little bit more detail about how this plan will be executed, because as it stands, it's more of like it feels like a wish list.
Okay, if I could break it down, is what we visualize is, yeah, we have this 5 years. We're breaking it down per year of how we're gonna accomplish those. And that's why we do that review, you know, in the 6 months for the following year of how we're gonna accomplish, what we're gonna do. This was just an overall. I think we can't say how we're gonna do it for like year 2027, because we're still 2 years away and we're looking at year 1 and year 2. Whereas we're looking long-term, we want to come back and say, these are what we want to do and how we're going to do it, and then come back and say, these are the findings, and these are where we can assist with.
Well, I mean, small business entrepreneurship or even healthcare is gonna be a multi-year effort. It's gonna be forever.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we pick small business entrepreneurship, if we could just like, you know, focus on that, right? Like just that by itself, I think is a huge endeavor. And you could say, okay, we got the startups, you know, doing high wage work. You know, we could do more for small business doing just mom and pop stuff. How do we help the existing mom and pops that are, you know, how do we help them get more revenue? How do we help the people at the flea market with the micro enterprises? How are we going to help people, you know, even just a regular sole contractor, you know, landscaper? I've just had a job recently with a landscaper where I had to give money up front so he could pay for the materials to do the work. And I was like, oh my God, I'm giving him all this money and I have no guarantee he's gonna show up. And at the end of the job, you know, I said, hey, thanks, you did a great job. Like, is this normal? You know, and he goes, yeah, and sometimes I get hosed. Because if I have to go buy the materials, then the customer doesn't end up paying for that. I have to take them small claims, whatever. How do we close that gap between the consumer, the Brownsvillian, and the contractor? Because it's just, I asked the electrician, same thing, plumber, same thing. These are people who already have businesses. So it's like we can think about it, like goal 1, small business, we can just focus only on that.
I understand where you're coming from. In the plan, though, it's saying that our focus should be on higher wage jobs. And so that's, I mean, if we could spread ourselves thin on all small business. And so that's why that focus is, you know, how can we use our funds for the higher wage?
Right,
And
I
build
think,
those.
But I think like also, you know, we have a group of people that are non-specialists. So it's like, there's a lot of different fields. But if you focused in one field, in small business, then you can say, okay, we're not only gonna, we're small business specialists, and we're gonna focus in high wage, middle wage, low wage. We're gonna help people all up and down the income scale. And, you know, some of those contractors, I could imagine, like, some of those guys were doing such good work that I would imagine if they could just solve this little problem, they would have a big business. Because, you know, and I think that's good for all of Brownsville, because then they're gonna bring because they do such a good job, they're gonna hire on more people, they're gonna say, this is the way we do our work, and train them up, it gets bigger and it spins off.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking is like, there's a lot of fields here. If we could focus on one field and be a specialist in that, then I think it would be better.
Thank you for the input. Yes, one more comment.
Yeah, I think that Mark and I'm gonna take some liberty here, Mark. I think Mark and I are saying the same thing, we're just saying it in a different way.
I think so too.
If you go back to the previous slide, right, like, I think if you add a couple questions here, that could be your prioritization criteria, right? The prioritization criteria doesn't have to be some, like, you know, calculus formula. Just a couple of basic questions that you then use to serve to cut this down. Because again, applaud the group, super ambitious. There's a lot of work in here, a lot of thought. I just don't think you can do all of it and do it well. So I think if you would tighten up the prioritization criteria, then use that to sort of take a second pass here, I really think that could help you. And I think the example of the healthcare research, that's a great example, right? Nelson, I'm just picking on you, sorry, because you're there. He could spend an hour doing some desk research and tell you exactly what the problem is, right? Like, yes, we're a medically underserved area, we need specialists. Why don't we have any? Because this is a very high percentage of people who have insurance, uninsured, that's one problem. B, of those that are insured, it's Medicare and Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid disbursement rates are extremely low, even for this region, compared to other places in the state. Like, that's why doctors don't want to come here, right? Those many other reasons. I think you don't need to dedicate a whole study. Somebody could do desk research for an hour, 2 hours, come up with that. Or, to Mark's point, farm it out to the experts. The School of Public Health, that's their area of expertise. Give them $5,000, $10,000, whatever. If you really feel like research needs to be done, to then inform your plan to bring that type of small business, right? Because I'm assuming a specialist who's an independent, like has their own practice, is considered a small business. I don't know, right? But that's back to his point about tiering, right? Small business in-home daycare, very low wage. Small business orthopedic surgeon, your standalone orthopedic surgeon office, very high wage, right? So again, I think what we're trying to help you do is, this is a tremendous amount of work represented here. A lot of thought went into it. We just want to help you figure out how to narrow it down so that it's realistic, and then at the end of the day next year, you can say, I didn't try to do 50 things. I tried to do 3 things really well, and here's the impact that it had. You had another conference of the entrepreneurs. You got 57 people invested in the Angel Network. You had how many more people in the pipeline for the Small Business Development Fund? Of the people that are already in the fund, 27 businesses signed up for the How to Grow Your Business, right, toolkit, whatever. I see it happening in my mind. I just think you need to scope it down. And another thing that would help me, certainly if I were doing this, is to see it represented visually in a different way. Like, I need to see, on the left-hand side, here's the project. To Mark's point, here's how we're gonna operationalize the steps. Here are the KPIs for year 1, and here's the budget allocation. It would just, if I were trying to make the decision, that would help me, right? Because then I can see, based on the I can't talk, it's the end of the day, operationalization of what the potential project is. Next year, our staff has the capacity to do X and Y. A and B, we just can't grow that fast next year. Okay, deprioritize that to year 2. Does that make sense? Yeah. I'm just trying to help you, again, narrow it down so it's super specific. You have a detailed plan, and then that helps you get to those objectives, because at the end of the year, we're gonna be back to where you are today. Well, how did you measure up against all the things you said you wanna do? And you don't wanna be in a situation where it's like, well, we said we're gonna do 12 really important things this year, and we actually only did 3, right? And so I think
It feels like defeat.
Yeah,
instead of a win.
You don't wanna set yourself up for that.
Yeah. So I have a question.
Comments I'll make is just brief, because I need to run. But overall, I like that, because at the end of the day, it's just a roadmap, right? And when we plan a trip to go to New York, and I'm gonna sit there for 2 days, and I'm gonna plan it, I can guarantee you that the way I plan to get there is not the route I'm gonna take when I get there, right? Because climate changes, people change, So I think adaptability is really important for this organization, right? And I think that, you know, we laid the foundation and we move forward, right? The one thing that I do agree with is narrowing the scope to Mark and to Sarama's point. But I like the overall plan because it's a map, it's a roadmap. It's going to tell us, like for example, you know, the SpaceX Visitor Center. Well, I like to see it on there, but we know that Starbase is already incorporating within Cameron County, and he's going to get whatever he wants for the next 5 years. So we're going to adapt to that. We're going to change, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point. So just things like that. Well, again, just to summarize my comments is the foundation, the base is great. It's a roadmap, but we have to be an adaptable organization, right?
Yeah.
Moving forward. And at the end of the day, narrow the scope. To answer a smart question, if you were to force my hand and pick, it's goal number one and quality of life. If you were to force me to pick, those are the two, and I think that, you know, we need to focus on those two things, you know, within the first year, and then we can
Yeah.
expand.
What are your thoughts about doing a survey, interactive survey with these goals, and you guys prioritize based on what your thoughts are? And then I can take that from those results and then take it from there and come back and say, okay, this is from what we surveyed the board from all of this. And I can make it really not as detailed as it is right now, and to where we can then get your feedback, and then I can come back to the board and say, okay, you know, from the 7, these are what was the ranking of, you know, priority.
I'm going to jump in. Remember how we talked about the reorganization so that you can focus more on strategy? I think we need to trust you to come back to us with,
Okay.
these are the top priorities. As I see them, these are the ones that have the greatest chance of success, of moving the needle on things that matter in our community. Here's my best effort to chisel this down to something that has a really fine edge on it, that can make a big difference.
Okay.
I feel like
that a lot.
if you give us the opportunity to weigh in, you're going to have 7 completely different opinions that's going to just be like an ugly casserole.
And then I'm back at square one.
Exactly. This is why you get those big bucks.
Great.
And I don't mean that in an ugly way.
No, I wanted to make sure, I agree with you
I
on that.
agree. She's right.
I agree on that, but I just want to make sure that's, you know, because it is a board, you know, that your input, you don't want to devalue the board's input.
No, but at the end of the day, I mean, we can kind of set the parameters and kind of help you support this, the roadmap. But at the end of the day, you're the driver, and you're going to drive us to New York or wherever we want to go. That's how I see that. That's how technically it's supposed to work. You know, I mean, right?
Yes.
Correct me from the last time I checked.
Yes. Right?
Do we need any action items here?
We do have an action item, and that is the adoption of the plan. And we really want to take off on this. We do have our Brownsville Prospero, where it's just focused on our first year, and it's just a few initiatives that we feel are very important, that we want to, you know, communicate with the community and how we're going to go about it. I believe it's only like 7. Yeah, no, the strategies. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, where it's we want to market that, and that's how we would have the overall plan on our website, but just focus on more of the priorities, because we do feel like we do have priorities on that. Again, I can always come back in January and tell you from our conversation, this is what we're downsizing, this is our priorities, and then we can adopt the plan. So you can table it, or?
I hate to say this, but I think we've put so much into this. And I love the fact that it's huge and beautiful, but I'm gonna love it even more when it's tailored and focused. I have no problem with waiting to January to adopt a plan that says exactly what we're gonna do and why. That's something that we can get our arms around. And, you know, I was in a big hurry for this too, but I don't want us to rush ourselves into adopting a plan that is possibly not achievable for us. And I'm concerned about just how ambitious this is.
Okay. Anybody else? Agree? Okay. So that would be it. No,
So there's no, is there any,
no,
I mean, we can just.
does anyone want to make,
Right, we make,
no, we just say there's no action. But we can, if anyone wants to make a motion, now is your time.
Deborah?
That's right.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Okay, I hear no motions. Thank you for the presentation. And thank you, board, for all of the feedback and comments, because I think it works to make,
Yes, it's very
and
important.
make it better. So really appreciate everyone, and your investment in the organization. We're gonna go on to item number 9, which is announcements, board staff announcements or comments.
I just want to let y'all know that this week is our Christmas Spirit Week at Ebridge. So Sam and Nellie came up with every day, you know, encouraging staff and ECC staff and members to, you know, be in the Christmas spirit per day of different things. Also, on Thursday, we're doing a Ebridge Christmas party for our members as well as staff, so y'all are welcome to come at 12 o'clock. We're doing tamales and the whole spiel. So you're more than welcome to join us if you want to have some lunch during that time with us. And we are going to do it upstairs on the second floor in the Blueprint Lab.
And then
So-
I have, for everyone, I have a little holiday ornament for your tree. My sister is an entrepreneur and a ceramic artist, so these are highly sought after, and they sell out within 5 minutes, but I'm lucky I got the inside track. So y'all, I have for everyone a Christmas ornament. They are various animals, and so if you open it up and you don't like your animal, switch with someone else.
How do we get her to be moving down here?
Good luck.
I just have to say, I got a beautiful dragonfly last
Yes.
I got a sheet, which I love sheets.
So if you get this, if you get similar one, switch with someone.
So we all have to open now. The dragonfly's beautiful, I still have it out.
Hummingbirds. Like hummingbirds.
Oh, I love mine. I got an armadillo. Oh, that's so cool. Thank you, Jill.
Oh, thank you.
Miss Tracy?
Oh, that is so cute.
This is your new
My new, okay, thank you. I use mine all the time.
Yes, it's yours.
Thank you. Oh, Jill, this is so cute. I love it.
Please tell Becca thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Jill.
Oh, that's for Jill.
Oh, thank you. I wonder why. Thank you.
I love it.
I got a pencil.
Is this her card then? Y'all,
Follow her on Instagram.
we got a card that tells us where we can order from.
Oh, you know what?
Good luck. though. Really, they sell it fun. Oh, yeah. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
Merry Christmas,
motion
guys, I
carries.
gotta run.
Merry Christmas.
Take care.